The stars shone cold and distant, indifferent to the wars of small civilizations below. The Varks, a proud alien empire, floated in their sleek silver warships, laughing at the whispers of Earth's so-called technology. Primitive, their commanders sneered, watching scans of human stations. Nothing but stones and weak signals. Yet somewhere in the void, hidden among the debris of past skirmishes, a human fleet prepared silently. The Varks did not know that Earth had changed. Humans had waited, studied, and built in shadows. Every laugh they threw at humanity only tightened the noose around their arrogance. Commander Ralph of the Varks, a towering figure with blue-scaled skin and 3 piercing eyes, scanned the star charts. His ship, the Vorith, pulsed with energy weapons, faster and sharper than any human vessel he had faced before. Or so he believed. Sensors detect nothing significant, Ralph muttered, clicking the console with long-clawed fingers. Humans are fools. They will crumble before us, as always. On the bridge of the human battleship Dauntless, Captain Elena Merrick watched her crew. Her eyes, calm yet calculating, flicked between holographic displays. The ship vibrated with quiet energy, the railguns inside ready to fire. "Hold positions," she ordered softly. Her crew, trained for decades in silence and precision, obeyed without hesitation. Each soldier knew the weight of this moment. Humanity's survival, its pride, rested on their shoulders. Rockets streaked past distant planets, and communication channels buzzed with alien chatter. The Varks were confident, their arrogance tangible, their voices full of mockery. "Earth is a joke," Ralph said aloud. "We will take what we want and laugh while we do it." But on the human side, silence reigned. The Dauntless moved like a shadow, unseen and unremarkable, yet each meter closer brought doom closer to the Varks. Sensors picked up the alien fleet unaware, their focus entirely on mockery rather than caution. And then, the humans made their move. It started with a faint hum, barely detectable across the emptiness of space. Then the railguns charged with a sound like thunder inside the ship. Captain Merrick's hand hovered above the firing controls. "Now," she whispered. In that instant, the silence shattered. Massive beams of concentrated metal slashed through space at impossible speeds. The first Varks cruiser, the pride of their fleet, erupted in fire. The explosion was blinding even through the distant sensors, tearing the ship apart with a precision no Varks weapon could match. Alarm bells screamed across the alien fleet, but confusion slowed them. They had not expected this. Ralph's eyes widened in disbelief. "Impossible. They've upgraded? This can't be human work." His 3 eyes darted frantically over the displays, but it was too late. Railgun after railgun cut through his fleet, each strike calculated, unstoppable. The humans were not just surviving, they were dominating. Back on the Dauntless, Elena watched the displays with a calm smile. Every shot, every calculation had been made long ago. Humans had learned from every failure, every defeat, and turned it into knowledge no alien could match. "Steady," she said. "Patience wins wars." The Varks tried to respond. Their ships fired, energy beams slicing through the void, but their aim faltered. The humans moved faster, using maneuvers impossible for their larger, slower vessels. One by one, Varks' ships erupted into fireballs, the screams of their alarms echoing uselessly across the silence of space. Even the commanders closest to Ralph faltered, their confidence shattered. "Captain, what are they?" one muttered, voice trembling. Ralph could only stare as the pride of his fleet turned to ash in the vacuum. The humans had waited, built, and struck at the perfect moment. And now, the Varks laughed, if only to mask the fear curling inside them. In the distance, a moon glinted coldly, watching the destruction unfold. And as the smoke and debris of the Varks' ships drifted into nothingness, Captain Merrick gave a quiet order. "Prepare the next salvo. Let them see we are not finished." Her crew, unshaken, nodded. Humans had never been the laughingstock of the galaxy. Not this time. Somewhere in the shattered remnants of the Varks' fleet, Ralph whispered, almost too quietly for himself, "We underestimated them. It was too late for regrets. The humans had arrived, and the universe would never see their kind the same way again. The stars watched, indifferent yet attentive, as humanity's railguns carved fear into the hearts of those who dared mock them. Silence followed, a heavy pause filled with anticipation. The galaxy had just learned a lesson: laugh at humans, and you will burn first. The ruins of the Vark's fleet floated silently in space, smoke and debris drifting endlessly. But humans did not celebrate. Captain Elena Merrick knew this was only the beginning. The Varks were proud, ruthless, and cunning. They would regroup. They would strike back harder. "Status report," she asked, her voice calm, almost soothing. The crew worked efficiently, monitoring damage, energy levels, and enemy movement. Each display flickered with lines of code and star charts. "Fleet intact, Captain. Railguns ready. No casualties," her second-in-command reported. Beyond the debris, the Varks were scrambling. Commander Ralph's pride had been shattered, but his mind raced. He would not allow defeat to humiliate his empire. He tapped commands furiously, rallying the remaining ships into a tight formation. "They will not escape our wrath," he growled. "Human arrogance ends here." On the Dauntless, Captain Merrick watched the movements of the enemy carefully. She knew that the Varks would be desperate, unpredictable. Every alien commander made mistakes when fear took over. "Plot their vectors," she ordered. "Predict their strikes before they make them." Her crew nodded, fingers flying over controls. Humans had trained for years to anticipate alien strategies. They studied the past, analyzed patterns, and prepared for the worst. No alien had ever seen humans like this. Suddenly, the Varks struck. Energy beams tore through the void, hitting the Dauntless with violent force. Alarms blared, lights flashing red across the bridge. The crew reacted instantly, maneuvering the ship with precision and speed. The railguns spun into position, targeting the incoming enemy ships. "Fire!" Captain Merrick's voice was calm but sharp. The first railgun shot cut through space, striking a Vark's vessel squarely. The explosion lit up the darkness, sending shrapnel flying. Another ship followed. And another. Each shot was precise, like a scalpel slicing through the enemy. Ralph's voice echoed across the bridge of his flagship, filled with fury and disbelief. How can this be human? Their fire, their precision." His fleet wavered, unsure, hesitant. Fear crept into the hearts of the bravest Vark soldiers. Humans were not just fighting back, they were predicting every move, every weakness. Meanwhile, Captain Merrick didn't celebrate. Her mind was already planning the next step. The humans had the advantage, but victory demanded careful timing. "Prepare the stealth drones," she commanded. Tiny ships, nearly invisible, slipped silently into the shadows of the battlefield. Their mission: gather intelligence, disrupt enemy formations, and create openings for the railguns. The Varks noticed too late. One by one, their ships were picked apart. The humans attacked with strategy, patience, and unmatched coordination. Explosions tore through their ranks as the Dauntless and her fleet moved like a ghost in the void, untouchable, relentless. Ralph's fear grew. He had never faced humans like this. "They are not just strong. They are precise, disciplined, smarter than any species we have conquered," he admitted quietly, almost to himself. Panic spread among the Vark's crews. Confusion slowed their attacks. Every strike was calculated by humans before it even happened. And then, a sudden silence fell. The Vark's ships halted, unsure, scanning the dark space around them. Captain Merrick leaned forward, sensing the pause. "They hesitate," she said softly. "Good. Let's push them further." The humans struck again. Railguns fired, stealth drones darted through enemy lines, creating chaos. The Varks, trapped between precision and power, began to retreat in disorder. Explosions lit up the void like deadly fireworks, and the humans pressed forward, relentless. Ralph's pride broke completely. He realized too late that underestimating humanity had been the gravest mistake of his career. We cannot stop them," he muttered. But the humans were not done. They were teaching a lesson, one that would be remembered across the galaxy. On the bridge of the Dauntless, Captain Merrick stood tall, her eyes sharp, watching every move. She spoke softly to herself, almost like a whisper to the universe. This is only the beginning. They laughed at us, and now, they will learn why humans should never be underestimated. The stars around them seemed to shine a little brighter, or perhaps it was just the human fleet blazing through the darkness, unstoppable, unbroken, and relentless. Somewhere in the chaos, the Varks whispered fears that would haunt their empire for generations. Humans were no longer the species to be mocked. The Railguns had spoken. And their message was clear. The universe had just met a power it could neither control nor ignore. The remnants of the Varks fleet scattered across the dark expanse of space, their pride shattered but their anger burning hotter than ever. Commander Ralph, furious and desperate, slammed his clawed hands against the console of his flagship. We cannot lose to humans. Prepare for full counterattack. But Captain Elena Merrick of the Dauntless was already anticipating it. She studied the alien fleet's movements with sharp focus. Every twitch, every change in formation told her where the next attack would come from. Humans had mastered patience, and patience now meant survival and victory. The first Varks assault came swiftly. Massive warships accelerated, energy beams glowing ominously. Explosions erupted around the human fleet, throwing fragments of ships and debris into the void. Alarms screamed on the Dauntless, but her crew moved like one organism, each step precise, each calculation pre-planned. Shields at maximum. Divert power to forward thrusters. Elena ordered. The ship tilted gracefully, avoiding the main brunt of the Varks' fire. The railguns whined to life, spinning and charging. The first human shot ripped through a Varks cruiser, tearing through armor like paper. Sparks and fire consumed the enemy vessel instantly. Shockwaves rippled through the surrounding fleet, and even the bravest Varks soldiers hesitated, unsure if the humans were spirits of war rather than mere flesh and metal. Ralph bellowed orders, his voice thick with rage. Concentrate fire. Destroy the Dauntless at all costs. But panic was spreading. Humans were not just attacking, they were predicting his moves, countering every strike with deadly accuracy. The Varks ships collided with one another in confusion, turning their assault into chaos. In the shadows of the battle, small human stealth drones darted silently. They weaved through enemy formations, disabling power cores, cutting communication lines, and creating openings for the railguns to strike. Captain Merrick watched the feed on her console with calm satisfaction. Humans were not relying on brute force alone, they were using cunning, precision, and perfect timing. One Varks flagship surged forward, trying to flank the Dauntless. Its energy cannons glowed brighter than the stars. Ralph's voice roared over the intercom, demanding immediate action. Break their line. Tear them apart. But Elena had already predicted this. Vector intercept, she ordered. The Dauntless twisted, sliding between the flanking ship and its intended target. Railguns fired in a sequence calculated to perfection. The Varks ship shuddered as metal ripped apart from bow to stern, its explosion throwing a brilliant shower of fire across the dark void. Every human move was surgical, unstoppable. Ralph felt fear creeping into his 3 hearts. He had faced countless civilizations and crushed them all. But humans were different. Every strike had intent, every maneuver had strategy. The arrogance of the Varks was being shredded in front of him, replaced by raw panic. Meanwhile, the Dauntless continued its deadly dance. Captain Merrick didn't speak much. Her eyes, sharp as a predator's, analyzed every flicker of movement. Target the lead ship. Fire at intervals, she commanded. Human railguns, charged with energy beyond the imagination of the Varks, fired in perfect timing, cutting through enemy ranks like a storm of metal. As explosions lit up the starscape, the Varks realized their numbers meant nothing. Each ship lost was a blow to morale, a crack in their confidence that could never be repaired. Commander Ralph gritted his teeth, feeling the weight of humiliation pressing down on him. This is not possible. Humans, They are not supposed to be this strong. Back on the Dauntless, Elena gave a quiet nod to her crew. They had achieved more than victory, they had instilled terror in an entire species. Humans were no longer seen as weak. They were precise, unstoppable, and terrifyingly intelligent. But the battle was far from over. The Varks, furious and cornered, were preparing for their ultimate strike. Massive energy weapons charged, ships accelerated, and the vacuum of space was filled with tension. Captain Merrick didn't flinch. She knew that the true test was about to begin, the point where cunning, patience, and human ingenuity would meet the raw fury of an empire. And somewhere deep in the shadow of the galaxy, a small human fleet hidden behind asteroid belts waited for the right moment. Reinforcements, undetected and silent, would soon turn the tide completely. Humans had planned this battle for decades in secret. Every move of the Varks had been predicted, every potential threat analyzed. They were not fighting for survival alone, they were teaching a lesson no alien would forget. Ralph's 3 eyes flickered with fear as he watched his fleet crumble. We underestimated them. We made a mistake. And in the darkness, Captain Merrick whispered to herself, almost like a promise. This is only the beginning. They will never laugh at humans again. The Varks' fleet reeled from the relentless human assault. Explosions flared across the void, metal shattering like glass. Commander Ralph's hands shook on the console. His 3 eyes darted frantically over displays. Every plan, every tactic he had relied on, was crumbling before humans' precision. Captain Elena Merrick observed silently from the bridge of the Dauntless. Calm, collected, she knew the battle was not just about firepower, it was about timing, patience, and foresight. Prepare the secondary railguns. Focus on their command ships, she ordered. Her crew moved as one, each soldier executing the plan with flawless precision. Humans were not just fighting, they were orchestrating a symphony of destruction. A Varks warship surged forward, trying to shield the retreating vessels. Its massive energy cannons glowed menacingly, cutting arcs through space. Ralph's voice echoed across the bridge of his flagship, "Destroy the Dauntless. Show them what real power looks like." But the humans were ready. Small, stealth drones zipped between enemy ships, sabotaging engines and power cores. Explosions erupted within the Varks fleet before the humans even fired directly. Confusion spread among the alien crews, every move they made seemed predicted. Panic replaced arrogance. "Lock targets," Elena commanded. The railguns on the Dauntless spun into alignment. The first shot struck a Varks command ship, tearing through hull and weapon arrays. Fire bloomed across its surface, and alarms blared across the alien fleet. Ralph roared in frustration. "Impossible! They know our every move." Humans had been studying the Varks for decades, analyzing every battle, every strategy, every weakness. Now it all paid off. One by one, the Varks ships fell, not just to firepower, but to superior planning and cunning. The battlefield became a deadly chessboard, and humans were always 3 moves ahead. In the shadows, hidden behind asteroids and debris, small human fighters struck next. They swooped in silently, disrupting communications and disabling weapons systems. The Varks, now panicking, struggled to regroup. Their pride turned into desperation, their arrogance into fear. Captain Merrick's voice cut through the tension like steel. "Do not stop. Push them further. Let them feel the weight of underestimating humanity." Her crew nodded, their faces set and determined. Humans had never been weak, and now the Varks were learning the hard truth. The battle raged on, but the Varks were no longer coordinated. Ralph's fleet wavered, ships colliding in their panic. Explosions lit the void in brilliant orange and white, fire reflecting off distant planets. Every human maneuver exploited the chaos, every railgun shot precise, devastating, unstoppable. Then came the decisive moment. The Dauntless fired a coordinated salvo at the remaining Varks command ships. Massive explosions shook the fleet, tearing apart leadership and leaving the rest in disarray. Silence fell briefly as smoke and debris drifted through space. The Varks, leaderless and broken, tried to escape, but humans had planned for that too. Secondary human fleets, hidden until now, emerged from cloaked positions. They cut off escape routes, surrounding the Varks with precision and efficiency. Panic turned to terror. Commander Ralph's shouts became frantic, pleading with crews to hold their lines, but the humans were relentless. Captain Merrick watched calmly, almost detached, yet every move was calculated to perfection. "Prepare boarding drones," she ordered. The humans were not done. Victory demanded complete dominance, and leaving Vark's ships alive could risk retaliation later. The Vark's fleet, once the pride of the galaxy, now faltered under human precision. Explosions illuminated the stars as ship after ship fell. Ralph finally realized the truth: humans were not to be underestimated. They were cunning, ruthless, and brilliant in war. And through it all, the Dauntless moved like a shadow, untouchable, unstoppable, a symbol of humanity's ingenuity and power. Captain Merrick's eyes scanned the battlefield, seeing not chaos, but opportunity. She whispered softly to herself, almost a promise to the galaxy. "This is only the beginning. We will never be laughed at again." Somewhere among the debris, the Varks feared. Their arrogance had been shattered, their pride destroyed. Humanity had shown its teeth, and now the galaxy would take notice. Railguns, strategy, patience, and sheer cunning had proven that humans were a force beyond reckoning. Ralph's hands shook. We cannot fight them. This is not war. This is annihilation." And as the stars silently watched, humanity's message echoed across space: "Underestimate us at your peril." The void of space was quiet now, but the silence was heavy with tension. The Vark's fleet, once proud and confident, was broken. Fires burned on drifting wrecks, and debris floated like tombstones in the stars. Commander Ralph sat frozen, his 3 eyes reflecting the destruction. His empire had been humiliated. His pride shattered. And yet, he could not accept defeat. Captain Elena Merrick, aboard the Dauntless, observed the battlefield carefully. Humans had won the first strikes, but she knew the Varks were far from finished. Arrogance might have blinded them, but desperation made them dangerous. "Do not relax," she warned her crew. "They are desperate. Desperate enemies are unpredictable." Her second-in-command nodded. "Captain, some Vark ships are regrouping near the asteroid belt. They might try a counterattack." Merrick's eyes narrowed. "Good. Let them think they can fight back. We'll teach them a lesson they will never forget." The Varks, hiding among the asteroids, tried to reassemble their remaining vessels. Ralph's voice, trembling with both fear and rage, echoed over their comms. "We cannot lose. Focus fire on the human command ship. Break their line." But humans were ready. Sensors had already tracked every movement. Elena ordered small, hidden human fighters to engage, darting between asteroids and striking Vark's ships with silent precision. Explosions erupted within the alien formations, sowing confusion. Panic spread faster than the fire through their fleet. "Deploy boarding drones," Merrick commanded. Tiny, deadly machines moved through space, latching onto enemy ships, disabling weapons, and opening doors for full human crews if necessary. The Vark's ships, unprepared for such a tactic, faltered. One by one, their coordination fell apart. Ralph's 3 eyes widened in disbelief. They think of everything." He watched as one of his vessels erupted in flames, then another. Every human move seemed premeditated, every attack perfectly timed. The Varks could not understand it. Humans were not just fighters, they were strategists, engineers, and warriors all at once. In the midst of chaos, the Dauntless moved like a shadow, weaving through explosions and fire. Railguns unleashed another devastating salvo, targeting the Vark's command ships. Each shot tore through hulls and engines, leaving no room for retreat. The Varks tried to fire back, but the humans anticipated every maneuver, countering with deadly efficiency. "Captain, they're attempting a concentrated strike on the left flank," the second-in-command reported. Merrick nodded. "Draw them in. Let them overcommit. Then strike where it hurts most." Her crew adjusted ship positions, creating traps within the void of space. The Varks, blinded by desperation, fell right into them. Explosions bloomed like deadly fireworks, and alien ships collided in panic. Ralph's voice broke through the calm again, raw with panic. "We cannot hold. Retreat. Retreat." But escape was impossible. Humans had blocked every exit, every path. The Varks were surrounded, their pride and fleet shattered by the very species they had mocked. And yet, Merrick did not celebrate. Victory had been achieved, but the lesson had to be complete. "Finish the railgun salvo," she ordered. Massive beams tore through the remaining Vark ships, igniting explosions that lit the darkness like day. The few surviving aliens fled, scattered and broken, their empire's power crushed. The Dauntless glided through the wreckage, silent and imposing. Elena Merrick's eyes scanned the field. Humans had proven something more than their strength. They had shown that intelligence, planning, and precision could defeat even the most powerful enemy. Ralph, the proud commander of the Varks, stared at his shattered fleet. He understood now the mistake of underestimating humanity. We should have never mocked them. Never. His words trailed into silence. Somewhere among the stars, Captain Merrick whispered, almost to herself, "Let this be a warning to the galaxy. Humans are not weak. We do not yield. And we do not forgive arrogance." The surviving Vark ships fled into the dark reaches of space, carrying a story of defeat that would haunt their empire for generations. The humans, calm and calculated, had proven themselves. Railguns, strategy, and patience had carved a new reputation for humanity across the stars. And as the Dauntless drifted among the wreckage, Captain Merrick allowed herself a small, almost imperceptible smile. The lesson had been delivered. The universe had been warned. And humanity had just begun to show what it was capable of. The Vark's remnants fled into the darkness of space, but Captain Elena Merrick knew they were not done. Desperation made enemies dangerous, and she could not allow their arrogance to survive another day. "Prepare pursuit protocols," she ordered. Her crew responded instantly, maneuvering the Dauntless and support ships with flawless precision. Humans had studied the Vark's strategies for decades, predicting every potential escape route. Ralph's ships surged forward, attempting to break contact, but every path was anticipated. Stealth drones flitted between the asteroids and debris, tracking the Varks like silent predators. Explosions from earlier battles still glowed in the void, casting eerie light on the fleeing fleet. "Captain, they're trying to regroup near the outer moons of Xyrath," her second-in-command reported. Merrick's lips tightened. "Good. Let them think they can hide. We'll draw them into our trap." Humans had always turned cunning into a weapon, and the Varks would pay for underestimating them. The chase began in deadly silence, punctuated by sudden bursts of fire. Vark's ships fired energy weapons, hoping to create openings. But the Dauntless and its fleet moved with speed and agility unmatched in the galaxy. Railguns charged, ready to strike the moment a target exposed itself. Ralph's 3 eyes widened in disbelief. "They are everywhere. How can one species anticipate everything?" His voice trembled, a rare show of fear. Humans had turned strategy into a weapon more lethal than any railgun, more precise than any laser cannon. From hidden positions behind moons and asteroids, human fighters struck. They disabled engines, cut communications, and forced the Varks into narrow paths where railgun fire could strike with deadly efficiency. Each maneuver was executed without hesitation, without error. Captain Merrick observed quietly. "Prepare the orbital bombardment drones," she ordered. Tiny, unstoppable machines launched into orbit around the moons. Their task was simple: trap the Vark's fleet in confined space, leaving no escape. The aliens had no idea what awaited them. The Varks, panicked and desperate, collided with debris and one another. Their once perfect formations dissolved into chaos. Ralph's shouts echoed through the bridge. "Form up! Don't scatter! Focus fire!" But it was too late. The humans anticipated every move. Every plan Ralph tried failed before it even began. A massive railgun salvo erupted from the Dauntless and support ships. Metal tore through the Vark's vessels with unstoppable force. The explosions lit the moons in a deadly glow, reflecting off asteroids like deadly fireworks. Human strategy turned the void into a maze the Varks could not navigate. Ralph's fear grew. This is not war. This is annihilation. Captain Merrick's voice was calm as ever, her eyes scanning every sensor. Fire boarding drones. Secure survivors if necessary, but leave no chance for retaliation. Humans had planned every step. They did not just fight, they controlled the battlefield completely. The remaining Vark ships tried one last desperate escape. They accelerated toward a gas giant at the edge of the system, hoping its storms would cover their retreat. But humans anticipated this. Railguns fired from calculated positions, cutting off paths and disabling engines before the ships could reach safety. Panic consumed the alien crews. Ralph's pride, his empire's legacy, crumbled. He could only watch as humanity executed every move perfectly. We underestimated them. We should have never mocked humans, he whispered, almost too quiet for the comm system. The human fleet pressed forward, unrelenting. Every railgun fired with precision. Every drone struck without hesitation. By the time the Varks attempted retreat, they were surrounded, broken, and utterly defeated. Humanity's patience, planning, and power had turned desperation into triumph. Captain Merrick watched silently as the last Vark's vessels surrendered or were destroyed. The void was calm again, but this calm was different. It carried the weight of a lesson learned. Humans had shown that underestimating them was a fatal mistake. She whispered to herself, a soft but powerful promise. The galaxy will never forget this. And neither will they. Somewhere, the Vark's empire reeled from the loss. Commander Ralph's arrogance had been shattered, his pride destroyed. Humanity had proven that railguns, strategy, and patience could overcome even the most arrogant enemy. And the Dauntless drifted among the stars, untouchable, unstoppable, a silent sentinel showing the universe that humans were no longer to be underestimated. The battle was won, but the legend had only begun. The Vark's empire had never known fear like this. Their once mighty fleet lay shattered, their pride reduced to ashes. Commander Ralph floated in disbelief aboard the remnants of his flagship. His 3 eyes, wide with horror, reflected the destruction around him. He had underestimated humans, and now he faced the consequence. Captain Elena Merrick of the Dauntless watched the battlefield calmly. Silence hung heavy, but it was a victorious silence. Humans had fought with precision, patience, and strategy. They had not just survived, they had dominated. And the galaxy would never see them the same way again. Scan for survivors, Merrick ordered. No one leaves this system without our oversight. The crew moved efficiently. Humans had fought wars not just with firepower, but with foresight. Every move had been calculated, every outcome anticipated. The remaining Vark ships were cornered near a massive asteroid belt. They tried to escape through narrow passages, but the human fleet blocked every route. Stealth drones darted in, disabling engines and weapon systems silently. Panic spread among the alien crews. Their confidence, once unshakable, was gone. Ralph shouted commands, but his orders fell on deaf ears. Crew after crew hesitated, unsure of what move to make next. Humanity had taken the chaos of battle and turned it into an advantage. Every railgun shot, every drone strike, every maneuver had been planned long before the Varks thought to act. Prepare final salvo, Merrick instructed. The railguns on the Dauntless and accompanying human vessels charged, glowing with deadly energy. This was not just firepower, it was the culmination of years of preparation, research, and strategy. Humans were not just fighting, they were teaching a lesson that would echo through the stars. The first shot struck a Vark's cruiser, tearing through the hull with precision. Explosions lit the void, sending fragments of metal spinning into darkness. One by one, the remaining ships fell, unable to respond effectively. Panic turned to terror, and terror to surrender. The Varks, who had once laughed at humanity's supposed weakness, were now begging for mercy. Ralph's voice broke through the calm, trembling with a mix of fear and disbelief. "Captain Merrick, we surrender. Humans, we were wrong." His words trailed off into silence. He had learned too late that humans were not a species to mock. Merrick nodded quietly. "Good. Secure them. But remember, they underestimated us once. Never again." Humans boarded the surviving Varks vessels, ensuring no surprises, no hidden threats. Every move was precise, controlled, and deliberate. In the aftermath, the Dauntless drifted through the stars, silent and imposing. Captain Merrick allowed herself a small, almost imperceptible smile. The battle was over, but its impact would last generations. Humanity had proven that arrogance against them carried a deadly price. Railguns, strategy, patience, and human ingenuity had rewritten the rules of warfare. Across the galaxy, news of the human victory spread like wildfire. Systems that had once doubted Earth now reconsidered. Empires that had scoffed at humans now hesitated, wary of the species that had turned the tide against the proud Varks. Humanity was no longer just a planet. It was a force, a calculated, unstoppable power in the stars. Ralph, floating among the remnants of his fleet, finally understood. His arrogance, his mocking of humanity, had been his greatest mistake. We should have known," he whispered, voice broken. "We should have respected them." Merrick, aboard the Dauntless, looked out at the stars. "Respect is earned," she said softly. "And humans will always earn it, through strength, through intelligence, and through patience." The Dauntless and its fleet turned back toward Earth, silent witnesses to a battle that had changed the galaxy forever. Humanity had not just survived, they had dominated. The lesson was clear, and the universe had listened. And somewhere in the void, the stars themselves seemed to shine a little brighter, as if acknowledging the rise of a species no one would ever underestimate again.